did you perform to live audiences, for example, in like your high school talent show? Was there some evidence that you actually had these not just passions, but also like frankly ability?
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll be the first to tell you. Like 14, 14-year-old Jin, it was one thing to mimic and emulate the rappers that I loved, right? In this
Yeah.
case, whether it's LL Cool J, whether it's Chris Cross, whether it's whoever, right? But to actually, you're right. What does it mean in terms of my own craft? Like, are you writing your own raps, Jin? Are you performing at the talent show? Yes. So to answer your question, yes. So there were several talent show experiences. I definitely started working on my own compositions, and I will be the first to say they were garbage. They were hot trash. But everybody starts somewhere, and but I have fond memories of that too, of that process. Because aside from the parents, right? So you cover the Asian parent side, but another fascinating aspect to me is one reason why I loved hip hop so much because there was a camaraderie to it. So my close circle of friends, right? Like my, let's say, close three, four friends. That was like our clique. That was our little squad. We were all into the same things naturally. The NBA, we all love playing ball. And in this case, hip hop, right? Like we just loved hip hop. And the funny thing is, these are some of my best, like BFFs, so to speak, friends that I still keep in touch with to this day. And I'm grateful for that too. We're all about to be close to 40, right? But I remember vividly that even within this small circle of friends, these are my brothers, my comrades. They're like, yo, Jin, ain't nobody trying to hear you rap, yo. Nobody, no, nobody,
They
no,
were like,
nobody.
you can do it.
No, no, no. These were not those friends.
Really, the big question is like, how the heck does someone break into the music industry, as like a 19-year-old kid? Like you show up in Queens. Like, what the heck was that process like? Because for me, and I remember when you did start winning these rap battles on BET.
On 106 in Park, yeah.
Yeah, 106 in Park. I think that was like probably a couple years after you arrived in New York, but that was when you started hitting the radar of popular culture and like people like me.
I mean, I feel like all along I was looking for this big break. So in Miami, I was already like, as mentioned before, probably a definitive moment was graduating high school. So, okay, yes, I don't have SAT scores to share, but I do have a graduation diploma. A pivotal moment was after graduating, I kind of already was full steam ahead. So this is in Miami. I'm doing demo tapes. I'm trying to get into every single battle competition that I can. I'm trying to get into every talent showcase that I can. And I'm literally running around the streets of Miami, just battling, like just freestyle battling any and everywhere at the mall, at the movie theater, at the arcade, everywhere. So I think the thing is, when I made the move to New York, I was in the same mindset, but just now it's a whole new playground for me. So I'm running around Times Square battling, like just like who raps, who raps. I'll battle anywhere. In the Village, there used to be a record store, iconic, called Fat Beats, at the corner of 6th and 8th, where there used to be a Grace Papaya. The Grace Papaya isn't even there anymore, but there was a record store called Fat Beats, and I used to stand in front of the Fat Beats record store, both freestyle battling and basically selling mixtapes, like mix CDs, and just
Wow,
be
that's some
like, I
hustle,
was that
man.
guy. I was
Yeah.
that guy. I was the hey, yo, you listen to hip hop? Yo, check this out. Check this out, man. I was that guy. So this is kind of the year or so leading into the 106 in Park.
To get on 106th and Park, you probably have to try out or something.
Yeah, I went to and I'm super like I have a strong vivid memory, and it's something that I hold dear to my heart, is the fact that I went to just traditional conventional open casting call along with the other 300 hopefuls, right? The other three roughly 200 300 people that had the same vision as me, like, yo, I'm gonna get on this stage and this is gonna be my big break. So I think that's the thing, is like I had always been looking for the big break, and in this case, the 106 in Park, it was the big break.
So for those of you listening who don't know what we're referring to, there was a show on BET called 106th and Park that would just have rap battles,
Yes.
and you'd have a champion. The champion would come back every week,
Yeah.
and so Jin, ended up setting the record for how long someone
Seven.
reigned.
7 weeks. Well, there was one guy I always like to. I'm the guy that's always very adamant about giving proper credit to for me. There was one guy before me that actually he did the seven. They call it the 7 week run, right? And after 7 weeks, there's this notion of like, all right, this guy he's already proven himself, so we're putting him in the Hall of Fame. So there was a guy before me. His name is Poster Boy. So I always like to acknowledge him because he ran so that I could fly, right? So shout out to Poster Boy. But
Well,
yeah,
it's so fun. So after you win 7 weeks in a row, they put you in the Hall of Fame. I mean,
yeah.
that's pretty dope. So you get up there, you start winning. I'm gonna guess that of those 200 to 300 people, you were probably the only Asian American.
Ding 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 ding. Yo, you clearly did the math. Yes, I will attest. Unless someone were to come out otherwise, because I clearly do not. I would have remembered if I was there at that.
I'm
If I
pretty
was there
confident
on,
you would have noticed like the other Asian
I
American
would
in
have noticed
that
another
gathering.
Asian dude there. If I was like, if I remember on that day of auditioning, you show up and you look around and it's just a sea of rappers, from Queens, from Brooklyn, from Manhattan, the Bronx, Staten Island, just everywhere. Some even from out of town, actually, because everyone's just vying for a spot on this stage to showcase themselves. But yeah, I think I would have remembered if I saw another Asian
You would
person
have
there.
remembered, man.
Yeah.
Because So you win 7 weeks in a row, and then shortly thereafter, you become signed to Rough Riders. It's like a major rap label. So was that directly off of 106th and Park?
Yeah, so there's like a fairy tale esque aspect to all of this because Rough Riders, as it stands, was one of my childhood like dream labels to be on, right? Like I think as a 16, 17, 18-year old, your dream is like, okay, how do I sign with Dr. Dre? How do I sign with, the Neptunes? Or how do I sign with Rockefeller, Rough Riders? Like I'm from that era, right? Like you mentioned, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. So at the peak of my, like hip hop journey, up to that point, these were the end game was to either, Rockefeller, Rough Riders, wherever the door opens. So in terms of Rough Riders, they actually reached out before I won 7 weeks. So I think maybe a little bit past the halfway mark. After I had won 3 or 4 weeks, they already reached out. We were already having conversations, and they were so committed and they believed in my journey so much that they said, "Hey, if we can close this deal out even before you win the 7 weeks,
You can
what we
announce
can."
it.
Yes. They said after you win it, they kind of spoke it into existence. They're like, after you win on the 7th week, right there is when you will announce that you've signed with Rough Riders. And this is all, and I'm so grateful because this is essentially all documented and it's captured and it lives forever on film, right? So I win the battle and the host, Free and AJ, they're like, yeah, Jin, so man, congratulations. How do you feel right now? And I'm like, how do I feel? Well, I've signed with Rough Riders. And there's this iconic moment that I forgot about. And recently someone brought it back up to me on Clubhouse. They were like, Jin, I'll never forget after you won the 7th week, you announced that you signed with Rough Riders and you went in your sweater and you pulled out the Rough Rider chain and you like put it in your mouth and you bit on it. And I'm like, damn, I don't even remember that. But apparently to this eighth grader, right? He was probably in the 8th or 9th grade at the time. He was like, yo, I'll never forget that. But the beauty of this is it would be one thing if it was like an Asian kid, right? Because I encounter a lot of that, like Asian, let's say male and females, right? That are in their 30s now. So at the time, they might have been like a junior high or a high school kid. And they'll tell me the story of, man, I used to be, running home on Friday to watch it, just to see someone that remotely looked like me. So those tales I'm always grateful and I cherish. But this particular story about the you pulled your chain out and you put it in your mouth, it was a African American guy, right? That was like, yo, I was in the 8th grade, and for some reason, Jin, that moment has sat with me for like 20 years now. Just when you pulled the chain out and you put it in your mouth, and you were like, yeah, I'm Rough Riders now, and I'm just like, that's the power of, like of cultural connection. You know what I mean? Here you have a Chinese kid on Black entertainment television with a young Black kid watching it, but everyone's just like, just connected. And there isn't, necessarily like a feeling of like, yo, this doesn't make sense. It made sense to me on stage. It made sense to this eighth grader as he's watching it. So I don't know, like I cherish that. I cherish that.